So for your next project, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a word shaped like its meaning. So here's our first example. I'm going to go on full screen mode so you can see that. Ooh, look for it. Oh. So look at it, and our word is football, and it's shaped like a football. So I'm going to go ahead and piece that together so you can kind of see how that works. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new Illustrator file, which I have already done. And I'm going to go ahead and do it landscape just because I think it'll fit better that way. And I'll go on the internet, find a picture of football. So here's a picture of football. I'll go ahead and copy this image, and then I will then paste that image into my Illustrator file. So Control C, Control V, and I want it to fill up the space. So I'm going to adjust this so it fills the page. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and lock this layer because I don't want it to move around. I don't want it to get messed up. I'm going to create a new layer. And with my new layer, I'm going to use my text tool, and I'm going to spell out the word football. Alright, now I've got the word spelled out. I'm going to go up to type, and from type I'm going to choose a font that I think looks good for this particular word. I think Cooper Black looks pretty good. Okay, so now I've got my font and I've got my word spelled out. I'm going to switch from my type tool up to my selection tool, and then I'm going to go up to type, scroll down, and then I'm going to select create outlines. So from there, that turns that word into a shape instead of just type. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and ungroup it. So I'll go object, ungroup. The reason I'm going to ungroup is because I want to be able to move my letters individually to fill the space, because really what you want to do is fill the space to create the shape of your word. Okay, so I'll just get a basic layout of this, and I'm gonna have to make some more adjustments to it to make it better fit the flow of the word I'm trying to create. So, but I'll get a basic layout here. So just stretch these letters a little bit to better fill this up. Okay, so now my words are kind of stretched out, fitting that shape a little bit better. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use my direct selection tool. So I'm going to switch over from my selection tool to my direct selection tool, and maybe I'll take some of these anchor points and adjust them to better fit the mold, fit the shape of my football here. I'll pose that down. I want it to follow this shape a little more closely. Alright, so alright, maybe I'll use my delete anchor point. So if I click on my pen tool and hold it down, it'll give me some options to delete anchor points. I'm going to maybe delete a couple of these anchor points because they're a little redundant and unnecessary, and it's not helping to fit the shape that I'm going for. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. I'll pull that down, pull this up a little bit because I want it to better fit that shape. I use that delete anchor point, and I take out a couple of these points too on that side, so I don't need all these anchor points because they're not helping my shape. Alright, so I'll use my direct selection tool again over here, and I'm going to push that up a little bit because I want it to better fit the shape here. Pull that down a little bit. and just that so it gets a closer mold, closer layout for that shape. Alright. And I might go ahead and use my delete anchor point, take out a few of these anchor points that aren't quite doing what I want them to. Adjust that out. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Maybe I can delete one of these two. Boop. Okay. Use my delete anchor point. Delete that. Pull that down. Okay, so I think maybe I'll take out one more point here. There, that looks pretty good. Okay, so I'll move on to my O, and I might just use my direct selection tool to kind of adjust this O a little bit to better fill the space. So make it a little less round, but a little closer to the entire shape of my football here. So I'll do the same thing on the bottom. We stretch some of these anchor points out across here to better fill in the space. You know what? I'm going to take my delete anchor point and I'll maybe just take out a couple of these anchor points. Some are a little unnecessary. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'll do the same thing with this. Oh, whoop. Let me move that over. I'll pull that up a little bit. Pull this out a little bit. Same thing over here. Move that down. And I'll take my delete anchor points and maybe take out a couple of these extra anchor points so that better fits the space. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, move up to the T, use my direct selection tool. And actually, first I'm going to maybe delete a couple of these anchor points right off the bat. So I don't want that to dip in. I want it to just go straight across there. Okay, now I can use my direct selection tool. Pull that down. Pull that down. So that better fits the mold. Okay, that looks good enough. Now move on to my B, and I think I'll go ahead and delete a couple of these anchor points here as well before I manipulate the shape. Let's pull that out just a little bit. And I think I'll use my delete anchor points, delete some of these points off the bottom. And maybe this one off the top. Okay, now I can use my direct selection tool. Move that around. And maybe move that around a little bit. I adjust it with the arrows on my keyboard to fit that a little bit better. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'll move on to my A now. And I'm going to pull this A out. So click on some of these anchor points, and I want to stretch this out a little bit more. I want it to be a little bit thicker to fill up the space a little bit. And I think I'll go ahead and delete a few of these anchor points along the side just to widen this out a little bit. Do the same thing over here. Widen out my A. Go back to my direct selection tool, click on some anchor points, and adjust the bottom just a little bit. And maybe I'll take out a couple of anchor points down here too, just because they're getting in the way. Oh yeah, well that probably looks okay. And I'll take out some of these here inside as well. And there. Okay, I'm going to call that good for now. And I'll go ahead and move on to this other one, to my L here, and I want to stretch this across a little bit. Use my direct selection tool, click on some of these points, and down here do the same thing. And then I'll move the bottom down, and I'll take my delete anchor points, take out a couple of these anchor points on the bottom to flatten that out a little bit. And I'll move on to this other L. Pull this out a little bit to better fit the shape. Pull that down. And I'm going to use my delete anchor points, take out a couple of these points that are not doing quite what I want them to. So let's get rid of them. If they serve no purpose, get rid of them. So there you go. Let's take out a couple of those. And there. There. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and take out a few of these on this guy as well. So I want to widen them out just a little bit. Okay. Now, I'll take my direct selection tool and drag this over a few of these points and pull them out here along the edge. And I'll take out a few of these other anchor points down in here, just so this fills the space a little bit better. Oh yeah, that looks a little better. Okay, so when I hide my football, I got a pretty good football shape going on right there. You know what? I think I might take my delete anchor point and take out a few of these points on this other L, because I think that will look a little bit better. And I think what I'll do, I'm going to take my ellipse tool. I want to round out the shape of the end of this a little bit so it looks more like the tip of a football. Take my direct selection tool, pull that across there, and then what I'll do is I'll select these two shapes. Then I'm going to use my Pathfinder tool, and I'm going to unite those two shapes together. So now this will just be one single piece. Okay, I think that will look a little bit better. So I hide my football. There, I got a pretty good shape. Alright, well, I would probably keep working on this and making it look a little bit nicer and fit a little bit better, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the next thing. Okay, so I can just hide that football underneath. I don't need to see it anymore. So I'll just have it be gone for now. Alright, so actually, nope. Before I do that, I think what I'll do is I'm going to add some laces to my football. So how I'm going to do that, I'll take my rounded rectangle and I'm going to draw a white stripe shape here going across where these laces are. I'll do that coming across here. Here. You know what, I'm gonna copy these to keep them consistent in size. So let's go Control C, Control V, copy it, place it there. Control C, Control V, place one there. Control V to paste it. Control V to paste it again. Oops. Slide that up. And let's do one more right about here. Okay. Alright, so I could probably line that up a little bit better, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as is. Okay, I'm going to select these shapes. I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to select just the stripes, the white stripes in there. Then I'm going to use my Pathfinder tool, unite those together so it's all one piece. Okay, now that I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and hide my football layer. Okay, And I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and select all those pieces inside, and I'm going to go to my Pathfinder again, and I'm going to divide this time. Divide. And then I will ungroup, and I think maybe what I'll do is just delete these pieces that don't fit inside the rest of the shape. Okay, so there we go. That looks good. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this the color of a football. So I'll just choose some brown. Let's get the bottom down here too. Make that a nice brown. Yeah, we'll go with darker brown. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Alright, let me get rid of that. And I'll get rid of that. Okay. So now it looks more like a football. It's brown, it's got the shape. But I want to have a little more texture, have it look even more like a football. So footballs, they have this kind of bumpy texture on them. So I'm going to go ahead and take my ellipse tool, and maybe I'll use a lighter shade of brown. I'm going to make this tiny circle here. So let me zoom in so you can see that. Tiny circle. Okay, so with this tiny circle, I'm then going to go and I'm going to make a pattern out of it. So I'll go, while this shape is selected, Object, scroll down to Pattern, Make, and I'll leave it as a grid, but I want to space it out a little bit. So I'll push my width out a little bit, just using the arrows on my keyboard. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So once you got like you want it, just click Done. And then that will add that to your swatches. So here's my new pattern here over my swatches. So what I'm going to now do, let me zoom out a little bit. So I'm going to select these shapes. See if it'll let me do more than one. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. We'll see how it goes. I might just have to do this one at a time. Okay, so I'm going to use my Appearance tool. So if you can't find your Appearance tool, you can always go up to Window, scroll down, find Appearance, but here's my Appearance tool. And then any tool you can't find over on this side, if you just scroll down to Window, go Window, scroll down, you can usually find the tool you're looking for that way. Okay, so with my Appearance, I've got my fill, which is brown, so I'm going to come down to the bottom, add a new fill, and in this new fill, I'll click on this little arrow and add my dot pattern, just like that, to the top. And I'll do the same thing on these bottom two pieces that didn't quite make it. Add a new fill, use that dot pattern that I made. Alright, so now this looks even more like a football. Now, I don't want to just leave the background blank because that's kind of boring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another pattern. I'm going to make like a grass pattern. So I'll also use my ellipse tool, and I'm going to make a long skinny ellipse here. And since I'm going to make grass, I'll make that green. Okay, so I'm going to use my direct selection tool, so this little white arrow, I'm going to click on the bottom, push this bottom point up with my direct selection tool. Click on this top point, and when I do that, it pulls up this window up here at the top. So I'm going to convert that anchor point to a corner, so it's going to have a sharp point instead of a rounded point, like so. Okay, now while that is selected, I'm going to make a pattern with that again. So I'll select that shape, go up to Object, scroll down to Pattern, and Make. And I want to space this out a little bit so it's not so squished together. Alright, looks pretty good. And once you got it how you want, just click Done. I'll move this off to the side. So let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to take my rectangle tool, so switch from the ellipse to the rectangle, and I'm going to drag this over the entire artboard. And I'm going to send this to the back, so go Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And now what I'm going to do, let's try my grass pattern. Well, you know what I should do? I should, I'm going to make this green, and then I'm going to use my appearance tool, and I'm going to add a fill on top of that. So with my appearance, add new fill. With my new fill, I'm going to add that grass pattern to the top of it. Maybe I'll switch this bottom green to something a little, I don't know. Let's go like that. We'll just call that good. Okay, we'll call that good enough for now. All right, so now I've got my word, I've got my patterns and my color and everything like that. So I would maybe spend a little more time to clean this up and make it look a little bit nicer. It looks pretty good, but you know, there's some spaces that are a little bit sloppy that I could fix up. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to do that. So we'll call that good. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose a word and you're going to create that word to be shaped like its meaning. So here is my word football, and it's shaped like a football, that sort of thing. So choose a different word and create it just like I showed you. All right, so if you are unable to access Illustrator at this time, what you'll do is go ahead and make notes, write down all the directions and steps that I used to create my image here, and then you can submit what you wrote in lieu of doing the project. So anyway, if you have any questions, let me know and I'll be happy to answer them. We'll go ahead and call that good. Okay? Alrighty.